Certified Africa is basically connecting the diaspora to Africa. Certified Africa travel focuses on getting the diaspora to come see home, what home looks like, what home feels like. We moved back to Ghana after our first baby in 2023.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Jill Hatago from Authentic African, and if you need help moving to Ghana, then this is the video for you. All right, so I am interviewing the founders of Certified Africa, Kristen and Nii Quaye. They're gonna talk to us about the business and how they met and how this all came to be. So without further ado, let's get right into it. All right, so first of all, I wanna thank you guys for doing this. I'm really interested to share your story with the audience. First, I wanna start with it. I mean, you came representing Nii with the hat on, but I wanna ask you, what does Certified Africa do?
So Certified Africa, I say, is basically connecting the diaspora to Africa. Now we have three different layers of Certified Africa. We have Certified Africa Travel, we have Certified Africa Foundation, and then we have Certified Africa Studios. And the three things are tying together to basically connect our brothers and sisters in the diaspora, of course, like my wife, to the African continent, and of course, like myself. And Certified Africa Travel focuses on getting the diaspora to come see home, what home looks like, what home feels like, make connections once they get to this part of town. And I would say one thing, that if you do not find something that gives you strong ties to the continent, a lot of people don't have reasons to come back. So what we try to do is to have a business component sometimes to our experiences. So when you come, you don't just travel, but you make meaningful connections that gives you a reason to come back, and also some type of business that can give you an interest in the continent as well. So that's what we do for the travel side. I'll let my wife talk about the foundation and then of course the studios as well.
So we also have, like you mentioned, Certified Africa Studios. I felt like it was extremely important for us to have a media portion. Why? Because Africa has been portraying media negatively for so long. So we wanted to be able to have that media piece that would allow people to see authentic stories, to be able to understand what's truly happening on the continent, and to give people a fresh perspective of Africa. Africa is a young continent, and we want to be able to showcase what young people are interested in right now, what's happening. And those are narrative stories, documents, films, TV shows. We have a lot of things that are coming in the pipeline for our studio, so stay tuned for that. We also have a foundation portion, and our foundation is really focused on intercultural exchange. We feel like once we get people from the diaspora coming here, spending extended periods of time in different various destinations on the African continent, then they can begin to connect with people here living in the continent, as well as them going to America, the Caribbean, and experiencing our side of the story. Once the two groups get to know each other, magic can happen in so many different ways. It starts to bring unity amongst all of these opinions.
So, Joe, I was going to add to the foundation portion that there's a lot of people in America, of course, and sometimes the Caribbean, who may never get the opportunity to, let me say, afford to make it down here into Africa. So one of the things that the foundation that we're looking to do was to be able to sponsor young people in the diaspora who may not have the opportunity to visit on their own. And let's start bringing them here, pay for them, give some type of scholarship to get them down here to experience this beautiful culture, because it makes a lot of difference on their minds once they go back. So that's one of the key parts of the foundation I wanted to just highlight.
That's awesome. I really love that. I mean, I know that I talked to people who done it on exchange programs, and I was fortunate enough to have parents born and raised in Sierra Leone. So I was already coming to the continent in my later years, like more recently, over the last 7 to 10 years. But prior to that, I had never come because I didn't have the funding to be able to do it, right? It's not cheap to fly to the continent. You could fly to the Caribbean, to Latin America, to anywhere else in the US, we're much cheaper. So I love the idea of using the foundation to bring people here. And then just that cultural exchange element. I think we're aligned in so many ways. Like my platform is all about trying to bring these two cultures together. I think you guys as a couple are testament to that, right? And so I do want to get into your individualized, and then I do want to ask you guys how you met, because I think it obviously has to be an interesting story for those people who are planning to come to the continent, what that might look like. But I'll leave it to either one of you to decide who wants to go first about where you were born and raised, and then we'll go to the next.
So I was born and raised in Ghana, grew up in Ghana. Of course, growing up in Ghana, you don't get to hear a lot about the diaspora in SA. You hear about the West, but you hear it from, let me say, the white context, right? So for me, it was very important where at some part of my life, I got a chance to begin doing work that brought people back to the continent. I used to work on a program, a study abroad, of course, which is how I met my wife. Sure, I'll go into that. But yes, but growing up, of course, I went through the school system, and then the university system as well. And then after that, I used to work in the courts system, the justice system. And through that, I got a chance to work on a study abroad, which connected me to a lot of diasporans. And that also piqued my interest that, well, we have a lot of people that actually look like me, that live outside. It's not only Obroni, like we'll say, in Africa, that actually live outside of Africa. So that piqued a lot of interest. And when we met, and then of course, it happened that we could actually do something to get more people and my wife to make it down here. That was a no-brainer for me. I thought that was great. I felt like it was part of my destiny, So yes, we jumped on it, and of course that brought us here. I said there.
And then Kristen, what about you? What's your background, your upbringing?
So I was born and raised in St. Cuthbert, Florida. My dad is African American. My mom is from a Caribbean background. Her parents are from Grenada and St. Vincent, and they have her in Trinidad. And so I grew up, I think, experiencing both of those cultures and being in touch with my Caribbean heritage as well as African American heritage. But I always knew that I wanted to travel to the African continent. I happened to read a book probably around my preteen years. That was, I think, the narrative character was somebody from Nigeria. And that gets my interest about traveling to Africa, that, wow, there's another place out there that I could potentially visit. So that's always been on my radar. And my first opportunity to do that was in law school. So I went to law school, did my undergrad at Howard, went to law school at Florida State. And while I was there, I had an opportunity to do a legal study abroad program, which allowed for me to extern at the Supreme Court of Ghana. And it's been 3 months here. So during my 3-month stay, that is how I initially ended up meeting me. And I would say my destiny shifted, or where I thought I was headed shifted. Because I saw myself being a civil rights attorney. That was the path that I was.
Wow. Okay. So you guys led so beautifully into it. How did you guys meet? You were here. You were already here, right? So you came on this externship program. So where did you meet? How did you meet?
So the program that she came on, like I mentioned earlier, was study abroad, and I happened to be the assistant on the study abroad program at the law school at Ketea. So that's how we literally interfaced, and of course throughout the program, during the official program 2 weeks, we're just meeting, of course, saying hi to each other, but then eventually we realized there was a connection. And it happened more so when the program was over after the 2 weeks and she was, having an internship at a court. I know we used to, before that, I helped her basically transition somehow with some other people's help as well. But so during all those transition periods, we got a chance to really connect, in that way. And throughout her stay, now we're literally together. I have to say we're like a couple throughout that process, which we really connected during those 3 months. And then, one day like another, and then again, like I say, here we are today.
Married a few kids later.
Yes. We have 3 kids. We have 3 babies now. So I actually moved to Florida as well in 2017. And then, of course, we moved back to Ghana after our first baby in 2023. Okay, and we've been here, of course, since.
Did you have to do the K1 visa?
Yes.
90-Day Fiancé.
Yes, 90-Day Fiancé.
Yeah, I've been watching that show for years. So a real life K1 visa couple. Well, I met others too, but you guys were legit. So you know how that goes. Hey, you know how that goes. So, okay, so you guys met. That's actually a really beautiful story. So you met, you guys just spent some time together. I always wonder though, so you were here for what, 4 months it was?
close to 3 months.
3 months.
Time, yeah.
Okay, and then you had to go back, right?
Yeah.
You guys had built this bond. How long before you saw each other again when you had to go back?
Which was a year. Close to,
Oh, wow, a year.
There's a process, and we spoke literally almost every single day. And I think that it helped that, okay, once I left, I knew we had already talked about marriage. And
In the 4 months?
yeah, but yeah, we knew that we wanted to be married. It just so happened that my parents had conquered 10 days at the end of my trip. So he met my parents. My parents had met him, and they really liked him. So I didn't tell them that. When they met him, they had no idea that we had anything going on. But yeah, he really wanted to get married, and I think that helped us with something to look forward to. So during that year that we were apart, we spent a lot of time just really getting to know each other deeper in terms of prepare for marriage. Yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
But Joy, I just want to say, I mean, sometimes if it's your destiny, yes. So it's not necessarily the case for everybody that you meet somebody and so quick something happens and it works out. 8 years, 10 years later, you're still so you have to really be sure of who you're connecting with, whether or not you really like them in that respect. And I mean, you pray that if it's your destiny, it should work out. It's very not as it's clear path.
I like that. That's a good point to make. Your path may not be everyone's, but obviously you said 10 years later. How long it's almost?
I mean,
18 years next year. So
we say stick. Yeah, well, on 60.
2016. So okay. So I will say early congrats. Well, first of all, congratulations this one, because you know how difficult it can be. And on that note, last question about you guys as a couple, because I am interested in this, just because culturally you're different. What would you say culturally were some of the things that you guys had to learn about each other's culture? I want to actually start with you, Kristen, because you answered the last question first. So Kristen, and for those who are living in diaspora, who's most of the people watching this too, I think they might be interested in hearing, what was it like for you culturally, right? Assimilating into a Ghanaian family?
I'd say I got my real training once we moved here. I mean, of course, I had extensive time here, but when we moved, we ended up moving to Nine's childhood home, family home, the place he spent most of his years far out.
Okay.
And I think that experience just was so unique and so different from how I was raised. One, I'm an only child, which is me and my parents in the home. His home is a community-based home where it's a lot of different, family, extended families that are living there with us. And so just being in a safe environment where it's not just, our nuclear family and learning to be in community, I think was huge, right, for me. I've got a chance to experience that, and that I don't have to just depend on him and I to raise our kids. The whole thing about it takes a village, it really takes a village. And I've, gotten used to that. I've gotten used to the foods where I'm eating Ghanaian food probably 4 or 5 times a week, where I wasn't eating that before. Having kids here, all of the postpartum things that they did to help me heal, so many different things I'm learning along the way. And I just feel so blessed and grateful to have this experience.
That's awesome. I mean, I think that's one of the things that we take for granted growing up in the West, right? That everything is siloed, right? We always operate in our own circles. So I think that's a hugely important thing. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I don't know if you really know that until you move to the continent, or unless you've been here. So to you, Nii, what were some of the things that you saw as differences, obviously growing up here and now having someone of Caribbean and American descent now assimilating in your family, and you assimilating in hers?
Yeah, I mean, it was very different, of course. So Africans were raised the idea of respect, of there's a lot of things maybe you're not upfront about. You just keep them in your head. You don't really bring them out, things like that. But of course, in meeting my wife and connecting at that level, there are things that the African person might not tell you, but she will, And of course, even getting the chance to live with other Americans, that's why I realized that's a culture of being able to speak up when something bothers you, when you're not comfortable with something, when you don't. So those were some of the stuff that, of course, I had to adjust to. And of course, I like learning, so that's a good thing. So it didn't really bother me so much. But those were some of the adjustments that I felt like I had to make. Again, I already, in growing up, I loved cooking. I didn't have any problem with cooking. A lot of people in Africa perhaps, can work around their rice, stew, stuff to get by. In Africa, we have this notion that the man's job is, again, outside of kitchen and doing stuff like that. So house stuff, but when you meet an American lady, it's not like that. For me, it wasn't like that. Maybe the other women could just enjoy that, but it wasn't like that. It's something we have to have conversations over. So we had a lot of conversations. We worked through a lot of questions. What do you think about this? About washing dishes? What do you think about? So those were all stuff that I had to just, as much as I enjoyed doing them, I had to have it in my mind that it's not necessarily a lady's job, right? Do this, or a man's job to do that. You have to be able to communicate and then work things out in that respect. So these were some of the sharp adjustments that, to the typical African man who wants to sit for them to be safe, they might have a very little tussle here and there if you're not careful. So those were some of the adjustments, that I had to, again, retrain my mind to learn. And I think that's the beauty of living. The world is not just the way you come from. Culture is dynamic. So as you advance, we have to just be open to learning. And I was very open in that respect. Among several other stuff, even when it comes to, and let me say sex, a lot of people don't like to talk about that. A lot of our people are not upfront about that. I didn't enjoy that. But again, the Americans don't play. I'm just saying, like, those were, like, whoa, did she just tell me that, that's something. As an African man, those were stuff that, we keep them in our heads, we don't talk about them, But so that was really good. And a lot of them were helpful to me in opening up my mind, of course, as well. So I think I don't think I had really big challenges when it comes to adapting to changes now. But when I moved to the American side, because I had my own surprises with, like what you said, feeling alone and not having community, a lot of community and all of that. That was very, very huge difference for me. Sure, in that respect as well, because like yourself, where we lived, when I first moved in Miami, like I didn't know nobody, like literally nobody. I remember one time, I'll never forget that. My wife had gone to work. I went out to the store in my early days to pick up something. Now in Africa, when you go out anywhere, and the rain starts falling, you can go stand on somebody's porch. You could go perch by their house. Even if they're car, they could give you a chance to the rain. I went to the stores, walking back, the rain started falling. People on their balconies, people were like, wasn't fenced like you have in Africa. And nobody offered to allow me to come stand on their porch or anything. That was very shocking to me. I literally walked through the rain all the way to my party. And I'm like, whoa, that was a big, shock in that respect, as we find here a lot of community. People help you, that you wonder why they help you. You don't find that, in that way. So those are adjustments that I feel like I had to make, not just in my home, but again, outside of my home. But overall, I think it's great exchange.
Absolutely. And you mentioned a couple of things that I think that really resonate with me. Both of you speaking to those different cultural experiences, I think I can resonate with both of those, just having lived in both places. So you guys get together, you decide you're gonna get married, you have that year apart, and you have your cultural exchange and your cultural shock. When did you decide to move back to Ghana?
That was 2023.
Okay.
I would say that for me, it was a move that had to happen because just mentally, the U.S. was draining me. But literally, I went through a lot of depression. I went through just a lot of anxiety. And coming to Ghana just felt like home. I felt that peace. I felt like my destiny is here. As soon as I can get over here, life will be better. Of course, I did a lot of preparation before I came because moving to a new place is time to solve all of your issues, sure. So I did a lot of that before, but I would say that moving here has really helped just cooking in another totally different space. That has allowed for our company and all of that to grow. So 2023, we made a leap. We moved and he left his job as well.
So I was going to backtrack a little bit. I remember we had on our wall that we have moved to Ghana in 2023. Now we had this for a while.
Like a vision board kind of.
Yes, because we had been and we had pasted it up in our room, but I know it was in our bathroom, if I'm not mistaken. We had decided at some point. Now, for my wife, when we got married, and of course I moved to the US, we used to come back here because it didn't take long before we started Certified Africa. After I moved back. So we had been coming back to Ghana, and every time we come to Ghana, it had to be a tug of war to be able to get her back to Florida. Like literally, and sometimes she changes her flights even after we've checked in. She literally says, "I'm not going."
Yeah.
And then she does. So I remember during the time that I was going through my process in America, of course, documentations here and there since I've been. My wife was constantly saying, why do we abandon all of that and then move back to Ghana? So that has been in the works, and I keep saying, well, once I'm here, I might as well complete that and then we can move back. So that has always been in the works for us. It wasn't just like randomly just moving to Ghana. So it took time. Even when we were helping a lot of people move, because rather I'm from Ghana, but come to Ghana a lot as well. I have a lot of roots and establishments here, connections here in Ghana. But we hadn't officially moved yet. We were helping a lot of people actually make that journey, even before we ourselves officially packed our stuff and say, hey, this is our new home now.
Yeah, that's all really helpful context, because I do want to ask you how the idea for Certified Africa came to be. So it started out as you just helping people who were planning to move, or had you already pre-established the business first before you started helping people with that?
Yes. We had already started Certified Africa Travel. Certified Africa Travel happened when she first came to Ghana. Okay. Remember her dad had mentioned something about when we go back, we'll try and send some family report so you can give them this great experience that you just gave us. Now that's how the thoughts just came. And then eventually when they left, of course, unknown to them that my wife and I was already in connection in that way. Once our, eventual marriage happened, then we decided to take that up. I remember we were sitting on the beach in Miami and I was seeing all these black people, a lot of black people concentrated, of course, along the beach. I was like, wow, that's a lot of people here. It would be great really to look past family and friends and then get these guys to come and experience Ghana. Those were some of the times that we started thinking about Certified Africa Travel in that respect, way before we looked at the relocation portion of it.
And I would say the second piece of that, travel, I think, was like one of the gateways, in addition to media, that we felt like was super important. Because you can't get somebody to move if they've never seen a place.
Sure.
So we felt like, okay, if they at least get a chance to travel and put their feet on the soil, some sort of shit or the magic is going to happen. We want to be a part of that experience for them. Let them have an experience that was so transformative that now they feel like, okay, I know people here. I make connections, have, a family here, right? And I think I might want to get another house here, have a second home here. I think I might want to start a business here. I think I might want to keep coming here more and more. And so that was sort of the idea or seed that we had for what Certified Africa could eventually grow into. And so when COVID happened and people started looking to move, a lot of people were moving. A lot of people were saying, but other people were saying, let me get out before they close the borders. When that happened, we jumped on that opportunity to help some people who were ready to move to Ghana do that. And he came up with, of course,
So let's talk about that. What exactly do you help people with? For those of you who are watching at home, you have no idea. You might think Africa is just like, oh, just move and just go, right? There is a process. I have a non-citizen ID, right? And I went through a process to get that and to renew it. Open a bank account was a process, having to get, my background check and all of that. Can you talk a little bit about what parts of the process you guys help people with when it comes to moving? Because I don't know if everybody out there is aware of what's required to be here legally.
So first of all, of course you do. People like you and what you do already help a lot of people with a mental portion of, having your mind right. My wife talked about doing some work before coming. So those ones, you have to get that right. Otherwise, moving here, we're not sure of that aspect of if you have any challenges in that perspective. But once you've decided that this is the place I want to actually go, you need a lot of documentations that come to play. Of course, aside getting your visa, if you come there, just like any country, you need to be able to have a permit to stay for a certain amount of time. So those type of paperwork, if you want to get some type of job, if you want to buy something, if you want to buy a car, if you want to buy a home, whatever it is, you want to start a business, these are things that you'll need some type of support with. And that's where we come in, being people that, of course, me could be from down and having, worked in the system and having all these relationships and all. And Africa is about relationships. Don't get it twisted. There's no clear cut way to nothing. So it's always about people that you connect with and who know you and all of that, even when the process is there. So that's where we come in to say, hey, don't come here and then come and struggle. So if it's a paperwork, if you need the work permits, if you need, residence permit, if you need citizen ID, all of those things are things that we can now walk you through. And the beautiful thing about us is because we had a family here as well, you automatically get to be part of a family. You get that family support, I should say, in a lot of things that does not even connect with paperwork. So like a lot of stuff, you could just hit us out and then we support you and walk you through that process. So those are some of the things that we do. Anything paperwork, the people need to do that. Now, if people want to start some type of business that they need some type of support, sometimes they need a partner, all of that. We can come in once we assess you, that's a great person. They don't have anything, that could be a problem. We are willing to be that person that partners with them or supports them in that department where we can to let them do that. If we have to recommend things, in that respect, we were able to recommend things that, hey, you could check this out. But yesterday I picked a lady up from one hotel and she was asking me, questions about Ghana and stuff that she could do and then how she could get AYC and all of that. I say, hey, you could talk to AYC and then they can help you do that. So those are some of the stuff that we can help people with. You reach out, say, hey, this is what I'm trying to do at this stage. Because we are available, you have that resource that, hey, this is how you get it done. Where we have to hold your hands and get it done, yeah, we do that as well.
So you're like on the ground experts, right? They can really help you, like a concierge service, right? To kind of help people, guide them through the process. Yeah, I think just believe you guys. There are a lot of things you need to do. It's just know that. I mean, so many people I've seen move here and don't think that they have to do. They think, oh, it's Africa. We could just, go there and just stay, right? And you need to have legal status in every country you go to. This is how it works. Okay, so I think that was really important. So you guys really are those on the ground concierges to help people get through the process of moving. Who are the typical kind of people that you come across, or who's your typical customer who wants to move or who should be considering even visiting and coming to Ghana or the continent, any of the trips that you guys do?
I would say, you have to have some pull or reason why. Typically, the people that we work with, either they say they've always wanted to travel here, or they feel some pull from Africa pulling them in some way. Because at the end of the day, if you're talking about moving here, it's going to be very hard to assimilate if you don't have some sort of reason why that's going to anchor you. So there's that. There's people who also, are looking maybe to start a business. Maybe they already have a business and they want to now move that business here and see if they can expand it here. They're looking to raise their children in a different environment. You had one woman who said, if I don't move and leave the U.S. now, I'm afraid that my son could die, before he even reaches the age of 18. I'm going to move you and pull him out of that environment and put him in an environment where I feel like he's going to be successful for the sake of it. And she said that moving him here, she sees him totally shit. He now speaks Tree and English. Just in the 3 years that, he's moved here. So we see a lot of people that want to do that moving here.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of people that just want to connect to their roots, And once they come and they experience it, they're like, I think I see myself moving here. In fact, there's a couple when we walked in here that called me. They visited Ghana 3 years ago, if not 2 years ago. And now they called at me and said they made a decision. Now they want to move to Ghana. So we're just talking about getting a property here. They want a beachfront here because they want to move back. So there's some people who, before they come, did not have anything move in your mind. They just want to connect back to where the ancestors left them. But once they tax down, they had a different thought. So we have a lot of those people as well. Now, people who just want to come and have fun, those come through the travel side as well. So yeah, so those are all people, and a lot of the people that really want to move are people who are in their 40s up about to put an age to it. So a lot of people in their 40s up with them, their hurricane thing, all of that, and I want to try something different. Once there to conquer new territories. So all of them like that, and of course the people who are heading towards retirement too, and really want to come back.
Yeah, and Kristen, you mentioned something about the woman whose son, she was afraid that he might not make it to 18. And I think it's really important to talk about that a little bit, because in the United States, there are 4 guns for every 1 person, right? Just to give you guys a statistic, right? And it is the Second Amendment. And so people, if they look at the number of amendments based on the importance, right? The First Amendment is free speech, so that's the most important. The second most important is the right to carry firearms, depending on how you read that amendment to the Constitution, but that's where they are. So with that, you have people who settle disputes that way. You also have a police state where they are hyperactive and overactive with guns. You have to comply to survive, right? This is a phrase you hear very frequently. Can we talk about Ghana on the Global Peace Index? I've seen it's top 10 globally, if I'm not mistaken, or at least top 20. The United States is in the 40s, right? So can we talk about how peaceful and safe it is to live here in Ghana?
It really is. It's very peaceful, very safe. I remember the first time I came here, I never once felt like I was, in danger. I'd walk around at night and not feel like I was in danger. People are just overall peaceful. And I would say, like, in terms of the police, like Monica always says, the police are your friend. Like, not once do you ever get stopped by the police and feel like, okay, my life is about to be in danger. I could potentially lose my life.
One time we had a traveler who, I think someone in 2021 or 2020, and he shared a testimony, quite actually, when we were sharing that for once in his life, he let his guard down. Yeah, as a black man, he has never let his guard down. But when he walks through the face of God, for once in his life, he was able to let his guard down. He didn't have a real type of fear. Now, we're not saying there are no bad guys here, or the people are not doing little theft and a little craziness sometimes here and there. But the overall feel of a place, is very, very important. And you just feel it. Like, nobody has to even tell you. You just feel it. There are some things I tell people, it cannot be explained to you. You have to experience it to understand it. That when you walk the street, even when it looks dangerous, like, you just don't have that type of fear that something could happen to you. And I don't see it's a no-brainer for that. But when you walk, I remember the first time I came to America, my wife was driving me, we're going out, and I had a banana with me. The banana is somehow shaped like a gun. You somehow hold it. Now, this is me coming from Ghana, no big, so I don't know nothing about guns and all shooting and all of that. So I'm just making a joke, like how you get a gun from your side and like you're firing something. So I did that with my banana in front of the car. And my wife screamed because the guy next to us pulled up in a big truck and he was watching me. And my wife screamed so much, I really panicked. And that really, it really registered what it means to feel safe in a place. And that's what Africa offers you, or Ghana to be specific, offers you. Something you had to experience it to understand it. And for Ghanaians who have not experienced what that looks like, they might not appreciate it. And for somebody in America who hasn't experienced the Ghana side of what that feels like, they might also not appreciate it until they experience it. And that's why the exchange is very.
I would listen. So this morning you were actually talking about this because now in Florida, I just learned that open carry is now a thing. Before it was concealed, it had to be concealed, but now it's open. So, we were talking about how here, you don't even have to worry about, two people can get in an argument, 2 guys can get out in an argument, and we don't have to worry that if he gets out of his car, he might be pulling out a gun. And this comes to a situation where now somebody's potentially dead. If 2 people are getting out of the car, they're coming to have an argument, and they just want to express how they feel in that moment. At most, they may come to, some blows or things. So that's very extreme.
And very rarely do they even fist.
Very rare. That's right. So, it's just simple things like that you don't have to fear and worry that at the end of the day, I could potentially lose my life in many of the ways that you worry about in America.
Yeah, stand your ground law in Florida, you know? Can be going to get Skittles and a juice. And on your way home as a 19-year-old, you could be shot and killed and the person can be exonerated, right? So we saw that with Trayvon Martin in Florida in particular. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that's hugely important. That peace of mind, I think, is really important. And violent crime is, I think, the distinction, right? So yes, there's petty theft. Yes, because in every country there is petty theft. There's some kind of scamming, all that kind of stuff, but when you really think about violent crime, it is a much lower percentage of the type of crime that happens here versus there. And the reason for that is people feel like community. You're not otherized, right? We talked about that already. And when you think about it, when it comes time to have a exchange with someone, even if you're furious, there's a different way to handle it if you feel like this person is my brother, my cousin, like family. Even if you're not even from the same tribe, it's like you're not enemies, right? Whereas in the States, everyone is otherized. If you're not part of my little circle, everyone is other, right? And you could be even subhuman, depending on what group of people we're talking about in the United States. And I think too, the other thing is things can escalate much quicker and end fatally because you have access to high-powered firearms that can, in the instant, take someone's life, right?
Oh, even a policeman don't know how he got.
Right.
They're walking without a gun. I mean, you don't see that in America. If you can see a whole police station with about 5 policemen, there's just 1 gun. You have to account for every bullet. So when you fire squad mistakenly, it needs to go and account for that bullet.
Right.
So, that speaks to how perhaps safe, you feel overall here. Despite, again, I would like to add that doesn't mean there are no bad guys here. Right. There are some bad guys here. You have to still be cautious, walking at night and all of that. But overall, there's some type of safety that you find here, find in a lot of places in the West.
Absolutely. I just wanted to cover off on that a little bit, just because I think it's important for those who are thinking about coming here. Anytime you hear about a fatality or a violent crime that happens here, countries end up on the watch list, right? Of, countries that you should not visit. Meanwhile, the United States is not on that watch list. And just every week there's a mass killing.
Yeah,
right.
Five advisory, crack back.
Exactly.
Shouldn't go there.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's really important too.
Because I would say this is a crazy thing. There are times that, because now we have a lot of travelers who have come through, people reach out to us all the time. There are times that I can be hearing someone who send me a message that I hear this is happening, some type of chaos is happening in Ghana. And I'm like, whoa. I'm driving through Accra and I don't know. I hear nothing, I see nothing, like nothing is really happening. But somebody in America is worried about having arms gap over something that even me living on a graph, not even heard about, read. That was very strange and funny sometimes when I hear people call me about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and look, I think maybe it comes from a place of, I think it just requires a little bit more knowledge sharing and more people coming to realize that. I think that's slowly percolating through society, especially Black society in the United States, where people are starting to understand it is a destination for safety, right? And to feel free, as all the things that you guys mentioned, sense of community, etc. So with that, I want to ask you guys a little bit more about Certified Africa before we close this out. We talk about who you service, we talk about what the services are. Any plans for expansion? I know you have the foundation, you have the trips, you help people move, you have the studios. Any additional plans for expansion outside of what you're doing?
With Certified Africa, of course, we're looking to be able to expand beyond some of the countries that we currently do, because again, Africa has about 54 countries within the continent. So for Certified Africa, our goal is to be able to touch on every part of the continent. And so the way we do it is, before we take somebody to a country, we should have had a personal connection, stayed in their homes, felt like family. We replicate what we do in Ghana in those countries. So all the countries that we currently visit, we have that type of deep connection. So we have people go to Tanzania, they come back and testify, just like someone who came to Ghana will still testify. They have that more. So our goal is to go to country after country. So anybody who feels connected to Sierra Leone, to Gambia, to Tanzania, to Kenya, wherever on the continent, the Congo, they can reach out to Certified Africa who can easily help you have that same feel and experience over there. So that's one of the major stuff. And of course, with Certified Africa Studios, again, we want to keep on going, creating more movies that will be out there that people can see, addressing some of the things we talked about through skits and then telling storytelling. Because I always say, some of the places I worked in America, during COVID, I used to work at feds. And when I first moved to America, I was doing insurance. So I was in an office with tie and all of that crazy stuff, But during COVID, I got to work in FedEx. Now, when I'm working at FedEx, I was like, whoa, there's a whole different set of people in America that I never had access to before when I first moved. So that was shocking to me. And some of the questions that they asked me was quite strange to know that in the year 2020 something, people still have this ideologies. So I said to my wife, whoa, it looks like we have a lot of work to do beyond getting people to Ghana. Like, we have to be able to take the message to literally every home, somehow. So one of our goals is to be able to send the message somehow through Certified Africa Studios to every home, to as much as possible in the West, in the diaspora, to get more people connected, first interested in the continent, and then even want to come back. So that's with the studio set.
We definitely have a children's show, The Making, to get young people interested in traveling, exposed to different cultures, immersed in any show that a child watches, their hair is also on. So yeah.
Nice. I love that. So with that, where can they find Certified Africa online and physically?
They can find us on certifiedafrica.com. They can find us on YouTube at Certified Africa, Instagram at Certified Africa, Facebook at Certified Africa. And they should also go on our website and subscribe to our website.
Nice. Well, I'm gonna thank you guys for doing this. I know that I asked you like last week or this week, I can't remember. So I appreciate you guys taking the time. And if you guys have watched this far, thank you for watching. If you found this interesting, hit that thumbs up. If you know anybody planning to visit Africa or even move to Ghana, make sure you share this with them. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you're notified every time a new video comes out. So with that, guys, thanks for watching. See you all in the next video.
All right, guys, if you like this video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, like, comment, and share it with your friends. All right, see you on the next video.